everybody. Welcome to the Jerusalem Connection Red Alert Report. I'm your host, Amy Zawi. Today, we have a very unique guest, Evyatar Cohen, with a biblical diplomacy project that we are eager to share with you. Evyatar is from Israel. He served in the IDF Special Forces, also as a first respondent, an EMT, and a police officer. He also had the unique position of being a certified Israel tour guide, which is something in Israel, if you don't know, in order to be a tour guide, you have to complete a 2-year credentialing project through the government. And this is very important and very rigorous and important for the Israeli outreach for tourism. Now, he also started this project, and it's an education project. So it's not political, there's no agenda, but it's something that came from his heart growing up in the land of the Bible, the Holy Land, and it is about biblical diplomacy. Evyatar also offers tours at the Museum of the Bible in Washington, D.C., and his unique approach to sharing biblical artifacts and the land of Israel when in Israel also is something that is very connected and touching for Americans in a very unique way. So I would love Evyatar to explain to us what exactly biblical diplomacy is, what his heart is for this project, and how he even got started. Welcome to our program. We are so glad to have you with us, and we would love for you to share a little bit about yourself and how your journey brought you to this point of biblical diplomacy and why you started it and what it means to you.
Morning, Amy. Thank you for having me. So my journey begins right after I finished a 4-year service of Special Forces and Combat Engineering in the IDF. I joined a group called Heroes to Heroes. I have this pin over here of Heroes to Heroes. It's an
Wow.
American organization. Jewish lady called, her name is Judy. She founded an organization that brings American veterans for a 10 days trip in Israel for a tour of the Holy Land for all veterans around the United States. And it does two things. First, it has a spiritual tour, and it makes a group, a community, so they can share the military story, their post-trauma together and heal it. And while they travel the land, the group invited Israeli veterans to join. So I had the privilege to see the land that I grew up in through American Christian eyes. So like if a guy from Virginia was so moved when he sees the Sea of Galilee and Nazareth and Jerusalem and the Dead Sea Scrolls, what does it mean about me as Israeli Jew who reads the scrolls, it's the same language that I read today, and it's the same land I grew up? What does it mean about me? So that made me become a tour guide in Israel, the 2-year course that you mentioned. And after a few years as a tour guide, I saw how much Americans are paying to come to Israel and what they want to see, how much effort they put in. I've done that for several years. And when we came here to the United States, after following my wife's job, I kind of went into the Israeli PR, started listening to what our Jews are telling the world, or Israelis are telling the world, United States specifically, and I'm like, wait a minute, it's not the same thing. Christians want to see Bethlehem and Nazareth and Jerusalem, and Israel, the 5 slogans of the Jewish people in the past 2 years were bring them home, we have the right for self-defense, Israel has the right to exist, never again is now. I'm like, wait a minute. If we're the people of the book, especially after Tucker Carlson asked Huckabee, what's the connection between Bibi Netanyahu and the land? Like, he doesn't practice Judaism, doesn't speak the language. So it started, I call biblical diplomacy. The goal is, in one sentence, I'm teaching Jews that Jerusalem is important to Americans. The goal is, when Jews are speaking to Americans about Israel or about Israeli PR or Jewish PR, they should use biblical terminology. And why is that? One, terminology equals identity, right? If I will speak to you in a cricket terminology, I'm probably Australian. I will not do that. I don't know nothing about cricket. By American football, if I will speak American football terminology, fourth and down and on the buzzer. So I'm American. It's the terminology. So if we're the people of the book, let's speak terminology in the book. And the second most important thing, United States is very, very, very biblical. Not only the people, the land, the names, the symbols, the logos. So how we can use American Bible, biblical United States, for our own Israeli PR and Jewish PR. So I started teaching and gathering information. It's an ongoing thing. The first class I gave was to the embassy. I taught them about the New Testament story in the Holy Land. We walked Jesus' path since incarnation until the end of Acts, till Peter in Jaffa. And then started going to the museum. I found the Museum of the Bible, and I've been friends with them. I do not work for the museum. I do not work for anyone. Everything that I say is from my own personal point of view. But I'm really good friend with them. I go there a lot, and I'm showing Israelis, but the goal is Israeli PR, how to use the biblical United States for our own PR world. The more I do it, actually, I see that the Jewish PR, the Jewish identity parts, I'm actually starting over there as well. Like, Jews want to come to see the museum as a Jewish point of view, because Jews do not barely ever go to the Museum of the Bible. They hear Bible, Bible equals Christianity. It's probably all Christians. And I'm like, the Bible is a book. The religion, Christian religion, was founded in Nicaea meeting 300 years later. The New Testament, if I put God aside, okay, I do not speak about God, I never speak about faith. But if you put faith aside, the New Testament are stories about Jews in the Holy Land in the first century AD. That's the basic stories. So that's what I do. What I did, what was the sweet spot that made me actually do it, is after half a year here, I saw Christmas came. And I saw my wife's job had to give gifts to her American colleagues who she works with, and asked her, okay, what are you giving for Christmas? She's like, chocolate and wine. I'm like, chocolate? And okay, wine makes sense. What kind of wine? She's like, I don't know. And I'm like, wait a minute. Your colleagues are putting Bethlehem on their front lawn. Like, do you want to give Bethlehem? Specifically, super important when the enemy, the pro-Palestinians, all the ones who shot our embassy colleagues, and Yaron, the rest in peace, he was screaming, free Palestine. They're saying Jesus was Palestinian. Jesus born in Bethlehem, and Bethlehem is in Palestine. It's an authority, then Jesus is Palestinian. All we needed to speak about Bethlehem. So how do we speak about Bethlehem? We started building it, and she gave at the end of the end, we gave a painting of Rachel tomb. She was buried in Bethlehem, because how do we bring something Jewish, Zionist, of Bethlehem, and through that speak to Americans? You're putting Bethlehem, I'm giving Bethlehem as Kever Rachel. Jesus was born in Bethlehem, King David was born in Bethlehem, and Benjamin is the first one who was born in Bethlehem. So let's bring Benjamin as a gift. And it has a blessing over there, like, may we'll raise a fine Galilee wine, because of Jesus' first miracle was in the Cana in the Galilee. Okay, so that was the gift. And from on there and on, more and more and more information. How do we do the little connections? How to speak to Americans and biblical. And actually, I live in Maryland, just how everything started. Do speak about God for 1 second. 2 weeks after I landed, friend of mine, my sister visits me here. She lives in California. She came to visit me here in Maryland, and she asked me to pick up her friend from the airport. I said, sure. I drive to DCA. I pick up Elisha Meidan. Elisha is the guy. He asked me, I asked him, where do you want to go? He said, Bethesda. I asked him why. He said, I want to get new legs. Elisha is the guy who lost his 2 legs in the war. On the way to Bethesda, from DCA to Bethesda, he told me he was severely injured in the same house of the son of the ambassador, Major Moshe Didier Leiter. May he rest in peace. In the same house, he was injured where he fell. And when we got to Bethesda, I took a picture, I can send it to you later. And I go back to this car, and I'm asking my sister, why from anywhere in the United States, Bethesda, Maryland? She says, what do you mean? He lost his legs. I'm like, of course, Bethesda. What's the story of Bethesda? Jesus healed someone who can't walk. Jesus tells him, get up and go. So he walked. So that's how everything started for me. And I started, wait a minute, Bethesda, walking, and then more and more and more information. And the entrance to Suburban Hospital in Bethesda, the National Institute of Health is in Bethesda, Maryland. I'm still looking for a proof for that, and not just coincidence. And across from the NIH and the entrance to Suburban Hospital, there's a stone from Bethesda, original Bethesda, with a map of Jerusalem. 1986, wow. 1986, Israeli ambassador to the U.S. gave a stone from Bethesda, from original Bethesda to the United States. And where is it placed? At the entrance to Suburban Hospital, across from the National Institute of Health in Bethesda, Maryland.
Wow.
Yes.
So you're finding these unique, undiscovered, but not hidden connections between the land, the biblical land, the historic documentation that's in the Bible, with American locations. And for example, you mentioned Jesus turning the water to wine in Cana. There's a winery very close to where I live in Loudoun County that's called Canna Winery. There's
Wow.
another one, and I always drive by it. I've been to it several times. And I mean, for years, every time I drive by it, I'm like, I wonder if anybody gets it. I wonder if anybody gets it, except for maybe the owners. Maybe they don't even get it. And then there's another winery that's not too far from that that's called Zion Winery. And there's Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, right? There's Salem, Massachusetts. I'm going to be there next week. There is an abundance of biblical names, not the least of which in the colonies, but all over America. And Americans are missing that connection, but probably the folks that founded those cities and towns, because many of them were Bible believing Christians, and also many of them, believe it or not, were Christian Zionists. They recognized the Jewishness of the Bible and the holiness of the biblical Holy Land. And even many of them had a dream that the Jews that are in the diaspora in Europe or any that came to America would have the opportunity to go to their homeland. Tell us about your discovery as you got to America and you looked at maps and traveled around, perhaps. Tell us your discovery of those connections.
I did not travel around. Everyone's making fun of me here that I don't travel, but I've
Oh,
spent a lot
okay.
of time in
So you
Google
looked at the
Maps.
maps.
No, it's the Museum of the Bible. I learned a lot. There's a lot of information over there. There's a tablet over there that shows a glimpse of how biblical the United States is. So working with them, I found this map.
Wow.
It's something I made. It's a small glimpse of how biblical the United States is. Some of the towns and some of the parks. Okay, so we're gonna speak about a few of them. That's the first thing that I made. But more I did it, I have 4 layers on Google Maps I can send you of how biblical the United States is. And we're gonna about to add now Canna. Send me the location of Canna Winery.
Yeah.
And Google Maps, it's over 200 places already that I marked. The 10 Commandments, there are over 45 places you can see the 10 Commandments themselves, like or monuments, or someone wrote the 10 Commandments on a mountain. You can see it from the satellite.
Wow.
Yeah, Swords to Plowshares, where we're going to speak, I'm sure, at the end. How famous the quote to plowshares, how is it relevant, how can we use that, and what's the full verse. And the biggest one now, like you said, the 250, the Liberty Bell. Everyone says Liberty Bell is Philadelphia. Well, the original one is in Philadelphia. There are over 100 replicas in United States, and one in Liberty Bell Park, Jerusalem. So when everyone, like what you said before, the Israel, the United States, Judeo-Christian values. So first of all, it's not. I call it, well, the book, the Bible. It's not, I don't know about values. I know the book, and it's not only values. It's physical. There's so many monuments like combined, like the stone. What we just said. Well, the Museum of the Bible has so many artifacts from Jerusalem, but not only. The museum, the Liberty Bell, the 9/11 monument, JF Kennedy, JFK Memorial in Jerusalem, so many connections. So it's not only value, it's actually physical connection. So my goal is, if this is how biblical the United States is, let's use it. And it's physical connected to Israel and the Jewish people, the descendants of the people of the book. That's the one thing that connects all Jews around the world, I hope. We're all descendants of the book. You believe, I always say, you can eat pork when his mother's milk on Yom Kippur, and you're still Jewish. You're still the descendants of the. It's like the worst thing the Jew can do as a really observant Jew.
But it doesn't
At that
erase
time,
their, yeah.
but you're still Jewish. You're still the descendants
Yes.
of the people of the book. So let's speak in the book to the world.
Well, you mentioned, and you have on your shirt there, the profound connection between the founding of America, the Liberty Bell as a symbol of that founding. Tell us about that bell and what most Americans don't even know about it. Even the many on the East Coast who may be on their 8th grade school trip took a tour of it. What is written on the bell? What is the bell showing us that connects us directly with the people and the land of the book, the Israelites? Tell us about that.
Time out. I'm going to get a replica. Just a sec.
Cool.
And time in. So the Liberty Bell. Year is 1701. Pennsylvania is established. 51 for the 50th year of Pennsylvania. Philadelphia. The Philadelphia is getting bigger. They need a new bell for the city. So they order a bell from England. It arrives to the United States. And the first struck, it cracked. I'm not going to go to the whole story. It's a whole long story of the bell. Bottom line, Philadelphia, July 76. They cracked the bell. They ring the bell. The bell is cracked. It's became an American symbol. Why is it called Liberty Bell. Well, a bell. Why liberty? It has the word liberty over here. It's hard to see here, but it has the word liberty on the bell.
We
What's the
can see
connection
it.
to the
Very
Bible?
cool.
What's the connection to the Bible? It says, proclaim liberty throughout all the land to all inhabitants thereof. It's on the bell. Where is it from in the Bible? 25:10 or 25 Yud, like verse 10. How do I know that? I'm not a Bible expert. It says on the bell, Leviticus 25:10. It says on the bell. And that's
Yeah.
why it's super famous in the United States to 50. What's the connection? What is the full verse? That's what I always teach. Never read half a quote. What's the full verse? The full verse says the following: sanctify the 50th year and proclaim liberty throughout all the land to all inhabitants thereof. It's the verse of the Jubilee, the 50th year. So this is this. Why do I have the two flags and the Leviticus? Why did I make the logo and actually on the back have the whole chapter written? What's the connection to Israel? First of all, we spoke already about the Liberty Bell in Jerusalem. Two, well, Bible. Three, this is the year that for 2 years we said bring them home. Well, now they're home.
Mhm.
Are we saying
Mhm.
thank you, Americans, for proclaiming liberty on the 250 on one hand? On the other hand, you ask what's the connection to the land? Who should proclaim liberty? Who's this? There's a question in Hebrew in Bible test. It always says who told who and why. Okay, who said to who? Who should proclaim liberty? So Leviticus 25 begins with God spoke to Moses, told him, God said to Moses, go speak to the Israelites when you enter the land that I shall give you. So what's the connection between the Israelites, the Jews, and the land? Is it October 7th, the Holocaust, the second temple destruction, or like Ambassador likes to say, Avraham Avinu is the first Zionist, or Liberty Bell? Leviticus 25 says that. Speak to the Israelites when you enter the land. That's not me. American symbol.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So, in your experience with working with Christian groups that you might be educating in these connections, like I said, they seem to be obvious when you call them out, but kind of go over the heads of many. Do you find that once you make those connections, you connect the Bible, what we have preserved for us in the written word, and of course the Jewish people today, including the Israelis, are integral, and the Christians have them to thank for preserving these texts. Over 2/3 of the Christian sacred texts are the Jewish Bible, the Tanakh, and all of our New Testament was also written by Jews in the land. Do you find the Christians are do you have to educate them on what's already in the Bible, or are they already aware of the Bible part but not seeing the connection to America? Like, I'm always a little bit concerned with the current population, especially our younger Christians who have good hearts, but maybe have not the time or haven't had the discipline to study the Bible like some of us older folks might have. What is your experience with the reactions of the groups that you share this information with, whether it's at the Museum of the Bible, if you're taking them through that, or in any other location you might be doing a presentation, or even if you're in Israel, bringing people through?
So that divides into two. First of all, of course, reading the Bible is the best, but there's so many movies. Like there's cartoon David now, or the House of David, or Chosen, which I'm in the middle of watching it, the series Chosen. So of course, reading the Bible it's important, but you can actually read it on Netflix, Amazon Prime. About Christian groups, I used to guide Christians in Israel. Here, I'm not focusing on Christians for now. I'm focusing on Israelis. I'm not trying to be another Israel advocator like Yosef Haddad or not Tishber, so many. I'm not good in video editing and not all these social media or walking. And I'm like, hey, have information. You are already an advocate. Here's information and use it. I'm in touch with several people. Like they actually use some of the things that I made. You're already working in PR world. I'm not working PR. Something that I say doesn't like to take like you understand kind of why. Like you know how to make it as a road sign. It takes more or like something in the TikTok video. It's not something that I do. I have the information. So I'm focusing on Israelis here or Jews to not be afraid of the full Bible. Like have a group that's supposed to take a Jewish group or ultra Orthodox group. They want to come to the museum next Sunday, but like, wait a minute, how Christian it is. I'm like, there's one room that says New Testament, and that's the only room we do not go into. Everything else is about Jews in the Holy Land. So my focus now is not Christian, it's more Jews and Israelis to know the Christian Bible and use it. In Israel, you asked about a great example is this name of podcast. I've told many times by Israelis or Jews here that Jerusalem is too political to speak about. Jerusalem, two states, a whole series. Okay, for Israelis. And then I open your podcast. What's it called? Jerusalem Connection. I'm like, I know what Christians support Israel. I know what they think about the Bible. I'm not here to convince them. Oh, listen, my card, as I said, says the book, the land of the city. I'm teaching Jews that the book has a land and the land of the city. Yeah, book, land, city. And I'm like, I always tell them, if I go to a Christian and says the book has a land, the land of the city, you're like, duh. What do you mean? Bethlehem and Jerusalem connection. Like, what? Okay, what else? So yeah, that's what I'm teaching Jews in Israel. Like, forget. It's very complicated these days for Jews. Jewish religion is it's done a great effort and great job for 2,000 years in diaspora of keeping Jews their heritage and stories by kept exile mindset of like, stay in your synagogue, just stay and pray instead of, hey, the book says something, like there's a land, there's physical, speak to your neighbors, they know what you say. So I'm trying to open the eyes for Jews to speak to Americans, not only Christians, but as I said, Christians were the easiest, but you can be a Hindu guy who lives in Bethesda, but you know what the Liberty Bell is. You don't need to
Yeah,
believe in the Bible. It's American symbol, let's use that.
excellent. Have you had any experience? So one of the issues that the Jerusalem Connection is addressing and other Christian organizations that are support, Zionists, Christian Zionists, let's use that word. We have a little family problem right now, and that is there is a portion of the church under the sort of umbrella of the term Christianity or Christendom that is teaching other doctrines that are not biblical. Jesus' Palestinian thing. Mother Isaac in Bethlehem is a proponent of that. There's many Christian churches, what we would label as liberal churches who don't declare that the Bible is this inerrant and the go-to and the standard by which we get our doctrine and we get our ideas and our thoughts about life today by reading what was written many years ago. Have you encountered any individuals or groups that are Christian that have pushed back on that connection of the land and the people and the book in its consistency over the 3,500 years, where the Israelis today, the Israelites today, whether they're the ones that had to make aliyah from other places like Europe, of course, or Ethiopia, or Yemen, or Iraq, or the folks that have. I have a friend whose husband's lineage goes back 16 generations documented in Jerusalem. I have another friend um, who's a general in the army, and his family as well. They were expelled from Spain in the 1500s, and they have the documentation. They've been living in the land since then. Have you been exposed to or received any pushback, reaction, or just debate or dialogue with those types of folks as you give your presentations and your education material?
You mean like if they say that we're not the real Jews? Do you mean?
Yeah, anything that's along that Candace Tucker
Yeah.
Carlson, that sort of fringe right wing, I would say almost anti-biblical, even though they claim the Christian label and they claim to believe the Bible, but they really aren't, and they still label themselves as Christian.
So about Tucker Carlson, I had heard some things that he said that some of them I agree. Of course, I don't think he's right, but I agree with the point of view. This is what I'm trying to fix, which would be a question for you. If Israel and Jewish PR would be more biblical, would that solve the problem? Because if we're the people of the book, then why are we saying bring them home, or Israel has a right to self-defense, and not quote something from the Bible? That's what I'm trying to fix. And what do you say? How do I prove it? Well, the best thing is the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's the exhibit Dead Sea Scrolls in the museum. I'm like, I always tell the group of over there, like some of the scrolls we read. I can read it, and not only I can read it now, I say the same words every day in your prayer book. Okay, Psalms 121 will come to the museum very soon, right? I'm going to show you Psalms 121, 122. It's something that Idan Reichel, an Israeli 2026 singer, he composed a tune about it. Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach, Esa'enai el Heharim 121. We're saying the same word, so like, what do you mean? My name is Evyatar, literally named straight after Abiathar, the king of the priest of king
And your
of
last name
David.
is Cohen, which, yeah, everybody knows
Exactly.
Cohen is
Yeah.
a direct
My father's
connection.
name is Chaim Aaron. My oldest brother name is Avia, like Avihu. Then Itamar, Elazar, and Pinchas, which are all named after the original Kohanim. So
Wow.
I'm named after this. I'm
Wow.
saying the people of the book were the same lands. So first of all, I don't care what you're saying. You're not the real Jew. Okay, whatever. It's not only I believe it. I do literally the same thing. What I really like to watch and I'm pushing Israelis to see the David movie or the House of David or Chosen. I'm like, do you want to learn Judaism? Like, and Chosen, Jesus is walking with this with the white with the purple string. Okay, and House of David season 2, he's putting on tefillin and says the blessing in Hebrew. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu tzavanu al mitzvah tefillin. He's saying it in prime time. Like, what else? The same thing that I do today every morning. Okay, and House of in the movie David, he's half of it is in
Yeah.
Hebrew. He's walking the tabernacle.
Hmm.
Everything is like, okay, that's I know this is me. So think what's lacking. Actually, that's a question for you. If Israel PR would be more biblical, would that help the young people that you said?
Think it definitely would help the young people. And I think it would encourage the young people who are searching. They're a little bit more inquisitive than an older generation that might be entrenched in some sort of ideology that strays from the Bible. I think if we were constantly, like you have the references, Leviticus 25. Uh, you mentioned that the plow and the swords to the plow. We can talk about that in a second because
Yeah, we will.
that's important. If we constantly let the young people know that this is what's today and here it is in the original. I mean, obviously they have to read it in English. I don't have the skills you have to read it in the original. Let them see that, wait a minute, there is this continuity. It's one single story. It's one single plan of God that is unfolding. And I know you're not political. As we deal, and this is what Jewish people have dealt with for millennia, changing politics, changing rulers. That's why there was so much movement through Europe. That's why the atrocities in Europe happened. In the modern state of Israel, political movements are still in an ebb and flow. Different ideas prevail, and there's the will of the people in Israel. And I'm not going to get into Israeli politics because it's too complicated and
Yeah,
I don't get it.
please don't. We're right before elections. Please
People
don't get
ask
us.
me about it, and I say that is way over my head, and I'm not going to speak for citizens of a country that I don't live in and I don't experience what they go through on a daily basis. I'll talk to you about American politics, my opinion only, but not on the show. So I think that it could be very effective for the younger ones, which is why I think what you're doing is so important. I'm excited to see that you are gathering this content in a way that the embassy or other influencers can then take these connections, these realities that are always referenced in the book that show the connection to the land and put it in front of any generation, but especially the next generation, and say, forget all the garbage and the noise that you're hearing that are from different political agendas or even points of view, or even sometimes these ideas are from misguided emotional responses to things that they see on the news or the TV. And and I think that will get people to start to think, "Wait a minute, I need to read my Bible. I was raised in the Bible," or "I know the Bible's true," or "The Bible's true, but it's an allegory." Well, no, maybe it's not an allegory. Maybe it's not a list of fables and lessons for us to learn from. No, it is lessons for us to learn from, but they're not fables. It's a reality, and I don't wanna call the Bible a history book per se, but the history is there. It's kind of, I call the Bible like the guidebook for life because it includes historical information that's truth, includes lessons for life, it includes instructions from God on how we should live, and it is God's message to humanity that he gave to the Jews to be the light to the nations. The Jews gave this and preserved this message for the nations, for everybody else. And clearly, our founders recognized it because they have that verse on the bell. There's numerous, I mean, the Federalist Papers, the notes on Virginia, even sort of his people might look back and say, oh, Thomas Jefferson and George Washington, or Ben Franklin for that matter, they weren't like evangelical Christians. Well, maybe not, but they certainly saw a validity and a truth in the Bible, and they saw the goodness and the reality that those principles and that guidance, that providential guidance gave. So I do think it's important, and I would love to see your biblical diplomacy be distributed in such a way so that we can all have access to that information so we can study and learn about it and put it into conduits that are then consumed by whatever age group. So whether if it's TikTok experts that can put a little message together on a short video, or it's somebody doing a class at a Christian college, or even a public school class, a university class, to connect it, because there's enough individual teachers, professors, pastors, Bible study leaders, and social media influencers that I think would just find it a treasure trove of a new approach rather than, which is important, but constantly rebutting things. It's not a genocide. It's not apartheid. All the things in the news that are necessary for scholars and folks to rebut, but sometimes it's fatiguing, right? To constantly be on the defense. You present content that's I want to say offense, but proactive. I always say if we can educate people in what the truth is, when the lies come out, they'll be like, dismiss them. Like, no, that's craziness. So tell us a little bit more about some of the things in America, some of the tangible statues, plaques, commemorations on buildings or what have you, that reveal to you that our founders or folks throughout the last 250 years did see that connection that you see, and where we can find it.
That's actually something I don't focus, not the history.
Mhm,
I'm less interested in what happened 250 years ago. I'm interested in what I can see now. The rock, the
mhm.
stone that we spoke before is 1986.
Okay.
100 replicas of the Liberty Bell is much later. There's in Kentucky, for example, there's a full-size Noah's Ark. Someone
Mhm.
built a museum of the Bible, Noah's Ark, full size. There's two tabernacles at least that I found for now in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. You can sit in a full-size tabernacle, and in Tampa,
Wow.
Florida, there's a Leslie Hale place. You can just see the tabernacle full size. I hope to together soon. But the two things that I love the best, one speaks about war, that's really connected to today, and one speaks about peace. So the war, we spoke about Salem. Well, there's not only Salem, Massachusetts, there's over 130 places called Salem. And why? Because Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought forth bread and wine. Bread and wine is the first mass. My question is, Genesis 14, who did he bring bread to? So Genesis 14 speaks about the kings of the north kidnapped Lot. And Lot is Abraham's nephew. But the Bible says the followers. When Abraham heard his brother was taken, so we chased them all the way from Hebron to Damascus, like Damascus, Maryland. There's Damascus,
Mhm.
Maryland. From Hebron to Damascus, he hit them very hard. Okay, he was fighting them, and when he brought everyone back, he brought them home. All his family, all his nephews, everything he belonged. He went back home, and the way home, Melchizedek, king of Salem, brought bread and wine. So I'm asking, why was Israel fighting for 2.5 years in Gaza? Because to bring them home, or is there our hostages, or because of Salem, heard her brother was taken. Genesis 14. Same story, Salem and hostages, and why we're actually fighting. 130 places in the United States will ask, what's the connection between Israel and Salem? Bible. I don't know how many people live in Salem know that Salem is a biblical name. And do the connections from that. That's a bit of war, but of course we don't want war. Israel, as you said, we want light. So the most famous quote in the world is, they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, nor shall they learn war anymore. I have found 25 monuments around the United States or organizations organization that are called Swords to Plowshares. And the most important one, two of them are in the UN building. One is in the back garden. They have a statue of someone who's beating his sword into plowshares. And across the street from the entrance to the UN building, there's a place called officially the Isaiah Wall. And it carved and huge, it says, they shall beat their swords into plowshares, literally across. The question is, who's they? So let's read Isaiah chapter 2, verses 1 to 4. This is the vision that Isaiah, son of Amos, was considering Judea and Jerusalem. In the last day, the mountain of the Lord's house will be highest of all, the most important place on earth. It will be raised above the other hills, and people from all over the world will stream here to worship. People from many nations will come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of Jacob's God. He will teach us his way, and we will walk in his path. Why would the all nations will do that? Because of the most famous Jewish quote. 4 times a week when you open the ark, we say, Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah udvar Adonai miYerushalayim. So all this is going to happen because for the Lord, teaching will go out from Zion, his word will go out from Jerusalem. The Lord will meditate between nations, and he will settle international disputes, and they will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation will no longer fight against nation, nor shall they learn war anymore. So when will peace come? When the lords of the Mount Temple will be established. The whole quote speaks about the Temple Mount, just like Tucker Carlson said, the holiest place on earth is the Mount Moriah, the foundation stone. Forget about everything else he said. That's how he always started his podcast. That's the holiest place on earth. Jerusalem connections. Okay, Jerusalem is the answer. What is the question? That's what I always ask my teachers. And the main goal is whenever Jews going back and connecting the two dots of diaspora, exile point of view to Bible, what's the holiest place on earth for Jews? Most people say the Western Wall. I ask the Western Wall so the Temple Mount is the holiest place on earth. It's so holy the Jews don't go in there, but it's still the holiest place on earth. This is the name of the war of Al-Aqsa flood. This is the official name of the war when they attacked us on October 7th. Richard Story, go speak. My hope is when Jews go back here and when Jews go back to speak Bible, land in Jerusalem, go speak about the Temple Mount, then peace will come. Not because I said so, because the Isaiah Wall across from the UN. That's the dream. That's why I'm giving out these pins and necklaces, start speaking about the Temple Mount.
You know, you truly are the consummate educator. You ask questions as a very Socratic method where you make people think and you make people recall what they know. And in that, it encourages me to read my Bible more carefully, right? And for those who aren't in their Bible every day or a couple times a week at least, get into it. It's the greatest book out there, international bestseller for a long time now. It's nonfiction. It's in the nonfiction section. Evyatar, we are just so excited about what you're doing, and I'm so glad you're doing it. I encourage anybody who's visiting the DC area, if they want to take a trip to the Museum of the Bible, to contact Evyatar, see if he can get on his schedule because he doesn't work there. Perhaps a guided tour. You can find him on Facebook and Instagram. We will definitely share those handles so that you can find them. And what else do you want the Christian community to know moving forward? How can we support you or amplify what you're doing and leverage all this knowledge that you have so that we can get a hold of it and share it?
First of all, you can share the link of the pins so people all over, they would make me think why I'm wearing the temple here because the book has the land of the city nationwide. I'm sending them all over from my house here.
What's that URL?
It's you.
What is the URL for the pin?
Well, I'll
What's
send you
the
the link. It's called the Ziva Mikdash. It's after a soldier that have fallen in Gaza.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll put that on the screen and put it in the notes, so that'll be great.
And for the Jewish, all Jews around the world, Christian, if you meet Jews, but mostly for the PR people who are working as PR advocates, go back to the book and the land. I'm not sure what values are. That's one reason I don't speak about God because, faith and Trinity and what does your God wants, my God. There's one book. All people around the world read the same book, and the book has a land and land has a city. Go back to speak about that with your Israeli Jewish friends, Jewish colleagues, as Jews. And there is a history to that. We're very afraid of Christianity and the whole Inquisition and Crusades. So we're very afraid of that, but they need to remember one thing specific now, when the Israel is governed like is a Jewish state in the Holy Land. Actually, sorry, this is one of the most important thing. Everything goes down to one question. Does Israel have the right to defend itself or the duty to have a Jewish state in the Holy Land? Most people say both. Most people ask them, they say both. But I ask them, okay, which one do you hear over a podium? Speak about the duty to have a Jewish state in the Holy Land and not the right for self-defense, because even when he says squirrel in my garden has the right for self-defense. So speak about that, and from that part, from Jewish state in the Holy Land, and speak why Jews, why the Holy Land. Well, there's a book. I don't know if you heard.
Available in most languages on the planet. Most.
Every hotel room.
You
Right by
can
the
even
Book of
get it
Mormon.
online. You can access it online for free. There's many
Yeah.
websites doing that. We are so pleased that you were able to join us. What a joy to talk to you. We'd love to have you come back again and give us any updates and progress. I know there's some movement in your schedule in the next year or two, whether you'll be in the States or back in Israel. So let's keep updated on that. And do you currently travel back to Israel to offer tours, or are you mainly just working in the States right now?
For now, only till the end of August. For now, only the States. But if someone wants
Okay.
a big tour, want to take a group, I'm not gonna say no to go visit the Holy Land.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
for now,
Yeah.
my family
But
is
you're
stationed here.
flexible. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you have
We're
to
Israelis.
watch
We
your
do not plan
family's.
ahead.
Thank you so
Okay.
much. We will be sharing those links. There's a wonderful article about you and what you do on the blogs of Israel. I will also share that link. People can read more about you. And again, what a pleasure and what a joy and what a value you just bring to the whole idea of advocating for biblical literacy, which will lead to biblical diplomacy for both Jews and Christians, Israelis. It's just a beautiful thing, and we really appreciate your approach is so inviting and engaging, and your passion is very authentic. We just appreciate it so much. God bless you.
Thank you very much. God bless you too.
Oh,
Shabbat shalom.
If you enjoy these conversations, please visit us at www.thejerusalemconnection.us. Find all our podcasts on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast program. Follow us on social media, subscribe, like, and share our content to reach the broadest audience.